Okay, hello there people. Today I'm going to be explaining how to create a radio station within Fallout 4 that plays your custom music and also shuffles the tracks so that it randomly chooses whatever track um, has not been played before, at least a couple of times, so that it never plays the same song twice in a sequence. And well, I'm going to be covering several subjects. This is going to be probably one of my more complicated video tutorials that I have done yet, because I'm going to be using some third-party software, but I'm also going to be diving into some more complex scripting functions and stuff like that. So hopefully you can follow along. I'll try to explain it as clearly as possible so that um, hopefully you can get it to work the first time, and I don't run into many issues along the way. So the first thing I'm gonna have to do is I'm just gonna load up an area. It's not gonna really matter where it is, but I'll just put it in thicket excavations. The slog is fine too. Okay, so here I got the slog loaded up, and the first thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to look for a radio transmitter. And I'm not going to want to mess with any of these things. I'm not going to have to change anything, but I'm going to have to place this, and it looks just like a trigger. And I'll just position it somewhere else, like right here should be fine. And the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to give it a radio station, just a number, something high, so that the Pip-Boy picks it up. So I'll just put something like 95.96, so that it is also not picked up by other signals, other radio transmitters that might be transmitting some other data, like, because there's a bunch of different transmitters and they all kind of do something different. So some are transmitting messages, some are transmitting music. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to check this ignore distance checks, because what that will do is that it will make sure that it is broadcasting in all of the Commonwealth and any other world space or interior that you might be in, and you could just choose it from the Pip-Boy to listen to it. So I'll just pick this, I'll just check that, and I'll save it. I'll save it as something new, like radio tutorial. And okay, so my radio transmitter is set up. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new quest. I'm going to go to quests here somewhere, character, quest, and I'm going to hit new, and I'm going to give it an ID of something like radio tutorial, and I'll put my radio station, and just to be certain, priority of 50, and start game enabled, absolutely, and make sure that it runs once. So yeah, all that looks okay, and I'll save it again, and I'll reload it. And okay, the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create an alias, quest alias, new reference alias, and select reference, and I'm gonna select that radio transmitter that I just made, and this location alias thing, I'll just hit no, that's not important. And uses stored text. This is, I'm going to get to this in a moment. I'm going to have to create a message. Oops. I'll just put radio, my radio transmitter alias. So this is set up. This is now connected to that quest, and that quest, when the game starts, it runs the quest, and it fills that alias up with that radio transmitter. But there's something else I still have to do. This is so that it appears in the Pip-Boy, and it gives It gives it a name. So where was it? Miscellaneous. And under message, I guess I'll create a new message, and I'll call this one my radio tutorial message. And message box, no. Icon, I don't think any of that matters. I'll just call it I'll put tutorial radio station. And short title, same thing. And tutorial radio station, just to be sure. And I don't think I have to do anything else there. And go back to my quest. Radio tutorial. And I'll open up that alias again. And I'll set the display name to that, my radio tutorial message, so that it fills it up with that stored text. It actually it graded out, so I guess that's the way it's supposed to be. And I'm just making sure that everything here looks fine. I don't think I have to do anything else on here to get it to work. And okay, so as far as I recall, I don't have to do anything else here. But just to be sure, I'll just set this up anyways, just to be certain about it. And I'll just leave this empty. And no quest objectives, nothing else. I'm gonna have to use scripts later on. But first, the first thing I'm gonna have to do now is I'm gonna have to import all my tracks. So this is where I'm gonna have to use some third-party software and start converting some MP3s into WAV files. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna need to do in order to get the MP3 to work in the creation kit is I'm gonna have to convert it to a WAV file. And there are many different ways that I can do this. There's many DAWs, which are digital audio workstations, that can do this, but I'm just going to be focusing on free software, free audio editing software, such as Audacity, because it's very easy to obtain, it's free, and it's going to be like a 1 or 2 step process. It's going to be very simple. So I'm going to look up Audacity on Google, and I misspelled it, but it doesn't matter. There it is, the download Audacity, and I'm going to get Audacity for Windows because that's the one that I use. And I'm just going to click on the installer, wait until it downloads, follow the step-by-step process for installing it, and then run the program. Okay, so here I am in Audacity, and first thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go to File, Import, Audio, and I'm going to choose whatever custom track that I want. I have my own custom track right here, which I just call my track, and I'll import it. And you can see now, you see the waveform in the program, and you go to File again, and you go to Export, and it has to be WAV Microsoft signed 16-bit PCM. It has to be this. It can't be any other format, because if it is another format, it's not going to work. And it has to be inside of your Fallout data folder, and then you have to put it under sound, not music, because if it's under music, it's going to give you an error. It has to be inside sound. So if you don't have the sound folder, you have to create it yourself. And I put it inside FX. If the FX folder doesn't exist, well, then you also have to create it, and then I put it under music. So now that I'm inside this folder, I'm going to create a new special folder for all the tracks that I want to use inside of my mod. So I'll call this radio tutorial. And inside this radio tutorial, I'm going to place my WAV file, my track, inside there and save it. And all this doesn't matter. You don't have to set all this stuff up because it's not going to show up in game anyways. And this doesn't have any purpose whatsoever. So I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to export my track, and that's it. I repeated the process several more times, and I created my entire playlist of all the tracks that I plan to use. So I'm going to get back to the creation kit, and the first thing that I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go into, I believe it's sound descriptor, and I'll start with let me have a look real quick here. Yeah, this is the right area. So I'm going to start creating my playlist here and start adding all the tracks. And this is going to be the most tedious of tasks, one of them anyways. And it's going to take me a while, so I'm just going to show real quick, and then so I'll start with track 1, and I'll call this just 00 track 01, and I'll lower it about maybe to about 9. No, I think 6.5 is fine. And the output model, there's many different types of kind of the output. Everything sounds different. It might sound like a cheap radio, or it might sound like just regular stereo. I'm gonna pick the regular stereo because it's probably the best sounding one, and I'm not gonna mess with anything else here. Just one track, and okay, so that's my first track, and I'll duplicate this, and I'll put track 2. Just rename it, and I'll do the same thing here. I'll delete this, and I'll go back into music, radio tutorial, and I'll go to the second track, and there's track 2. Repeat again. Alright, so I took a small break, and now I have imported all my tracks into the creation kit, and everything's ready to be set up. So I'm going to start writing the scripts, and hopefully it's not going to be too difficult to follow, and I can get this done pretty quick. So I'm about halfway there, so I'm going to reopen my radio tutorial, and I'm going to select a new script, and I guess this script, I'm just going to call it radio shuffle script. Should be fine, and it extends the quest, and it's going to be a conditional, and okay, I think that's correct. And I'm going to make 3 properties. This property is going to be called current track, and it is going to be also a conditional. And I'm going to make another property, int previous track, also a conditional. And one more, int previous track, also a conditional. So okay, and save it. Always got to save it to make sure. Never know if something might crash. And okay, now I have the beginning of the script started, and so I'm going to make a function, and I'm going to call this function randomize. And what this script is going to do, basically, and function, what this function is going to do is it is going to shuffle all the tracks, and is going to continue shuffling them so that no songs are repeated in a sequence. So let me see. I gotta remember, because this is a little bit it's a little bit confusing. Current track, and current track is going to equal, because this is my variable, this is an int, and I'm gonna, there's a function within utility called random int that allows you to set a range between any number that you want a min and a max number, and it's going to choose some random int every single time that it runs this function. So iCurrent track is going to be set to some random number that I don't know about, and from here I'm going to run a conditional, and what this conditional is going to do is going to check to see if that track is the same one as the previous track. So previous track, previous track. If it equals that previous track, it's going to call the function again, randomize self, and this is a recursive function, so it's going to continue running the same thing until it's not the same as the previous track. Oh, I forgot one thing. I should set all the values, the initial values of each and one of these ints. I should set them all to 0, so that whatever the case, it's always going to be randomizing all these numbers, so they don't match. They never match up. And I'm going to run another one, else if current track is equal to previous track. And in here I'm going to set the current track, no, not the current track, I'm going to set the previous track to the current track. And once again, run that recursive function. So continue shuffling them. And else, if these conditions, if it passes these two conditions, then it's going to set the previous track, previous track, to current track. I believe that looks okay, and I'll put end if, and it'll jump out of this recursive loop, and it will end the function, and whatever track that it chose is going to be the next song that's going to be played. So once again, this is going to check to see if the previous track was played. And this, if I put this right here, I think it's like this, I'm not sure. Let me save it just to be sure. Okay, I got an error. It's probably not like that. There it is. Okay, no errors this time. Check to see if the previous track was played. If it was, run the function again. And right here, double check to see if the previous track was played. And if it was, shuffle again. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Previous track equals the current track. So there's my shuffle script, and everything's initialized to 0. Okay, I just have to make one minor adjustment to the radio shuffle script. That it's very important that I forgot to do this, but it's just one simple line that I have to add into this, where the previous track is set to the previous track once all the conditions are passed. And what this should do is it should leave the previous track as the previous track. So, and then it updates the previous track to what's the current track that this random int generated. So that's it. And now I'm ready to start creating the scene. And right here, this is what's going to be running when when the radio transmitter picks up when the Pip-Boy picks up the radio transmitter. So I'm going to call this one the radio tutorial station scene. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Radio tutorial station scene. Okay, so right here, the new actor is going to be my radio transmitter alias, which is this thing right here. And this scene, I'm going to add a new phase at the end. I'm going to continue adding phases for how many songs that I have. So I have 12 songs. So I create 12 phases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I have 12 phases in the scene, and I wanted to begin on the quest start. So it's going to start playing the songs as soon as the game starts. And right here, the first thing I'll do is I'll run a fragment, and I'll call that shuffle script, so that when it starts, it begins shuffling them right away. So the first thing, I'll pick the quest from, the script from this quest. So that would be the KMY quest, and I'll set that up and call that function randomize. So I'll compile it if everything's okay, no errors. Okay, so everything's set up, and right here I'm going to have to start adding my songs. So that would be new action radio, and the sound that I want to play is track number 1, and I guess it doesn't matter, I'll just call it track 1. As far as I remember, I don't think I have to do anything else here. I could also override the sound so that it sounds different from here, but I'm not going to be using that. And so that's my first song. And go into phase, and when it starts, I'm going to set a condition so that it matches the condition of what song is going to be played. If these conditions are true, the phase will start normally. Otherwise, the phase will be skipped. So this is what that script is for. It's going to shuffle all my songs. And the first thing that I have to do to get that to work is I'll look up Quest VM, I think it is. Quest V. Get VM Quest variable, that would be it. And it will get the variable from that script. And they already set it up, radio tutorial, because that's the first one on there. And it would be the current track variable. Not these other ones. These are the ones that the script is running the conditionals on. So the current track that's going to be playing. And if the current track, the value is equal to 1, it's going to play track number 1. Remember that scripts, when coding, everything starts at 0. So the best thing that I should do, so that it's easier, is choose 1 through 12 instead, not use 1 through 11. And that way it will never no, actually that's a bad idea. I'm going to choose 0 through 12, 0 through 11 I mean. See, this thing could get really complicated really quick. And I guess if it's the value of 0, it will play track 1. And I'll copy this action and put it over here. And I'll paste the action, and I'll continue doing that for each and every track. So I'll do that right now. So I went through the tedious task of copying and pasting all the tracks to their appropriate locations, and also associating each sound file. I also copied all the variables from the phases to match the appropriate song that's playing. I also I ran the script. I ran the function, the randomize function, from the fragments, so that every time that it plays a different song, it also shuffles the tracks again. And there's one more step that I need to take before I am completely finished, and that is add another phase at the end. And I'm going to want to loop this, so I'm going to create a new action, and I'm going to choose start scene, and I'm going to call this song loops. And here in the editor ID, I'm going to choose a new scene, and I'm going to choose the same one as this one, so that it goes right back to the beginning, and it loops the whole thing infinitely. And if I wanted to add more, and if I wanted to increase the size of my shuffled playlist, well, then I can do that. Same process, and I just change the value over here to whatever I want. Say I want to put 30 songs, and it should work the same as anything as before. Just continue adding more and more tracks. So that's it. I'm gonna test it in game, and hopefully everything worked out okay. And that's it. All right, so here I am in game, and I'm trying it out. So far, it seems to be working. So here I click on tutorial radio station. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up for this tutorial, and hopefully you find it useful. It took a lot longer than I probably would wanted to have work on it, but I use nothing but original music, so if you want to check that out, if you're interested in checking that out, you could click on one of the links in the description below, and you could stream it on Spotify, Apple Music, and many other streaming services that are out there. Probably I'll be making another tutorial soon, and maybe I'll be covering more on how radio stations work and what you could do, like add DJs or some commercials if you like. The many different things that you could do, and however complicated as you want to make it. So hope you enjoyed this, and that's it for now.